Welcome to the Inside Out Money Podcast.
Can't even recognize this place. Too many pieces of our past mistakes.
Hi, I'm Maggie, and I believe real change starts from the inside out. So let's work together to improve our money and our lives from the inside out. We will explore all things money and our relationship with it. Join me each week with a rotating set of co-hosts, friends, and interviews. Let's jump in.
It's time, we going round and round and round and round.
Hi, Erica.
Hi, Maggie. How's it going?
Did you miss me?
I miss you as soon as we hang up from each session.
Always, often?
Always,
Me too.
yes.
Always, often, forever. Okay, well, for those of you who might be newer, welcome to Inside Out Money. This is a personal finance podcast focused on redefining wealth from the inside out. Each week, I speak with a rotating set of co-hosts about a different financial topic to help you improve your financial mindset and tactics. Today, we have Erica. I don't even like calling you a co-host, Erica, because we've been friends since we were little kids for like 30 plus years. And I'm really excited for this discussion. Today, we are going to talk about the idea of remembering and realizing what truly brings us joy, simple joys, and that it isn't shopping and accumulating more stuff, and how remembering this will help us spend less longer term, but also in the short term. I hope this will help many people get through the holiday season a bit less financially scathed. We're going to talk about decluttering, minimalism. What else, Erica? Am I missing anything?
Yeah, we're going to talk about maybe my attempt at a no-spend November. And I'll say that I'm very happy to be discussing this with you because through your financial journey, the biggest thing for me was like, how do I wrap my head around the psychology of how and why I spend money, which we have discussed in other podcast episodes. And while we've discussed it, I've still been questioning, but how do I actually put this into practice? And this is one step towards creating that practice. For me, it's all about what goes into my mindset around money. And I think this is a good start of, well, what do I already have that causes me joy, not causes, creates joy that I have that I can maybe, cause an effect of joy where I can look at what I already have, be grateful for it, be appreciative and be like, and I don't need to open my wallet to find something that is already existing in my current life.
Yeah, you said that spot on. And one thing I think is interesting and just worth noting is I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Erica, but I believe someone like you looks at someone like me, and I don't know why I'm saying someone like, because we're actually pretty similar, but I think you think I'm better at this than you, but I don't think I am. Would you even agree with that statement?
Yeah.
I mean, when I say better at this, I mean like at spending less.
I do. Yes, I would think that. And I'm curious to hear why you don't think that about yourself, except that I know some of our shopping habits because we've been friends for so long. And it's not even shopping habits, just spending habits.
Yeah.
So I am curious to hear why you think that. And I wonder if maybe this comes in with like the compare and despair that we've talked about is like, well, you're retired at 41. You must be really good with your finances, which yes, you are. And on some level, maybe not so much. Is this where we open the junk drawer and really get down to your debt?
My junk drawer doesn't.
Your big gambling habits.
Look so great. You meant like physically. I was like, my physical junk drawer doesn't look so great.
Well, that's the point of a junk drawer.
Brag about.
Yeah.
True. But no, I think the reason I say I think you think I'm better at this than I am is one, I mean, to your point of like, yes, clearly I've done something well if I've retired by 41, but I frequently will admit, look, I also was a above average earner. And so having an above average salary helped me to save much faster. And my other point related to that is I have had moments in my life where I'm very good at this, but it's a constant struggle. And that's why I say I don't think I'm as good at it as you might think I am. I'm constantly buying stuff and being like, oh, why did I buy that? I don't need this. I'm stressed out by the amount of stuff I have. I've been on ups and downs in the last 10 years on my minimalism and decluttering journey. I have way too much stuff in my house. It's constantly bothering me. I had goals during early retirement to get rid of so much stuff, and I have not. So if at this point you're like, why am I even listening to the two of you? How are you going to help me? Don't worry. We're going to help you, because first thing is misery loves company. money. And I don't love that phrase because it makes it sound like misery, but I do think there's something cathartic in realizing like we all have the same struggles and we're all trying to get better at this stuff. And I think we can get better together by talking about this stuff, in my opinion.
I agree. Can we share one example of something that you've bought recently that you're like, why did I buy this? Because I have a funny one.
Well, yeah, you go first then.
Okay.
I like it. It's a prop. You've even got it here with you. It must be useful if it's on your person.
It's not
right
with
now.
me. I have to just remember what it actually says. Hold on. And you'll be getting... I'll send you this postcard, but I saw this on a sweatshirt. It's a tie-dye sweatshirt. So for those who can't see the video,
Is that a cat?
so it's a neon pink cat. It says, "You can do it. Just focus. You're great." And I saw this on, I don't know how, this is what happens when you just exist in the world of internet. I found this on a tie-dyed sweatshirt and said, yes, I must own this. And then I bought it and the landlord's like, what, where and why and what, just all these questions. And to me, it was very motivating. Like I loved it.
And how much?
Well, I got the
Yeah.
like on sale. So yeah, to
Yeah,
me,
of
it was,
course.
it
Well,
was
then
worth
you
the
should've.
$25. And like I said, I bought some of the postcards too. So, our pals will be getting some of these in various ways. But when I look at it in my closet, I just shake my head and laugh because what even is this purchase?
Yeah. Well, it's funny when you first asked that question, I was like, I'm sure I can think of lots of things, but I own way more hoodies than a person, I was going to say of my age, than anyone should own, than a 90-year-old woman should own. And I actually put on a sweatshirt last night that was kind of in my winter bin. It was getting cold and I got it out. And I purposely bought it as like a tacky holiday sweatshirt for a holiday thing last year. And I was like, I'm going to keep re-wearing it every year as my tacky holiday sweatshirt. It's just got like a, how do I say it without like offending someone who would actually wear this sweatshirt?
A second grade teacher vibe?
Yeah, I was going to say it's got like a second grade teacher vibe. No disrespect to second grade teachers. I loved my second grade teacher. But yeah, it's got like a, old, it's got like an 80s teacher vibe of like a sweatshirt you might wear with a with a turtleneck underneath it, perhaps.
Let's be honest, we both probably wore exactly what you're discussing back in the 80s. So
For sure.
It's a second grade us vibe.
Exactly. Right. That's another way of saying it. Well, anyways, let's get back on topic here. So we both have sweatshirts we recently regret, but to your question, Erica, I could name 10 things in the past 2 months, and that's probably not great. So as we jump into this, I would like to give some credit to one of my favorite people I follow on Instagram is this account called Begin at Home. It's one of my favorite like mom lifestyle accounts. She's constantly reminding us that me, but the world, that you don't have to have the latest and greatest of stuff or of things in your home to appreciate and take care of your things. And I really like that. And she posted something that inspired part of this episode. And then also, Erica, we were having a text thread right around the same time. So sometimes things sort of triangulate in my life. She was sharing a story about a walk that she went on in the woods. It was like a beautiful fall day. This was just a couple weeks ago. The leaves were changing. The weather was amazing. She was just appreciating the weather and where she lives and that she could go on this path right by her house and experience a lovely walk. And she said the dopamine rush and joy that she felt in that moment is something that couldn't be replicated by shopping or accumulating or updating everything she owns. And she was sharing that she has learned that joy for her comes from finding things that she loves to do, being present and noticing things and cherishing beautiful, ordinary moments. She said it may sound a little cheesy, but I genuinely had that moment this morning. And she was encouraging us to take a moment and be present and cherish the most ordinary of things. It's a delightful way to live. And I just love that. Like this concept that joy can be found in simple things. I know it, but I often overlook that point and am looking for joy and pleasure and dopamine hits from pink Christmas tree sweatshirts, or in your case, a cat tie-dye sweatshirt, which by the way, like when you talked about that cat tie-dye sweatshirt, I got a thing for tie-dye.
Right.
And I immediately was like, I should probably also own that sweatshirt.
Yeah, it should probably be like a whole slew of us owning this. So to me, it made sense at the time. That's not the point. Continue.
Yeah, we're going to keep getting back to the cat tie-dye. But just the idea of wrapping your mind around the idea of taking more time to notice and appreciate these little things that can and will make us happier. And On the flip side, the bonus is will help us to spend less. And this could be a walk out in nature. It could be a moment with a friend, a family member, we're playing in the yard with our kids one day and we just notice like, oh, what a beautiful day. And my kids are happy and we're all healthy right now. And it could be I finished a really good book the other day, Erica. You recommended it. Do you remember what it is?
The Light Pirate.
It was so good. It was called The Light Pirate, as Erica just said. I'll put a link in the show notes to it. It was free on Libby. I listened to it when I was doing stuff around the house and walking. And it was such a good book. It was one of those books where I'm like sad to not be a part of these people's lives anymore after I'm done reading it. It could be a talk with a friend. It could be, some simple and delicious food that you eat. And I just think I love the idea of trying to focus on these simple joys.
I love this. And I think that a lot of the themes we've talked about through the various episodes is mindfulness, gratitude, even they all kind of fit in with meditation. A lot of this well-being comes together. I would say that it's being present in the moments that we have that make us happy. And a lot of times we use distractions, social media, news, magazine ads, commercials, things that will pull us away from the present moment to have us recognize what we don't have, which fits in with what you and I have talked about. And I think we'll be discussing soon is predatory marketing tactics. We're constantly being told by other people that we are not enough because we don't have enough. When you can be present in what you do have, that's where the enough comes in. On our last episode, I talked about how when I go to bed, I use the GLAD method for gratitude, something you're grateful for, something you've learned, something you've accomplished, something you've delighted in. I recently learned a new one, which is find something that you're grateful for that you often take for granted. And I think that fits perfectly in this episode. We have a lot of things that are just, we're privileged people who have what we need, and yet we tell ourselves we need more. Well, let's find the things that we take for granted. Like, I'll come up with an example before the end of this episode, but that we can have I don't know. I guess I take our friendship for granted. That could be a thing, I don't take it for granted. I very much appreciate you, but I've been making a point to tell people how much I appreciate them in their lives, what they do for me as a person who I depend on. So I'm telling you this right now. I appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. I don't take you for granted.
Thank you, Erica. I appreciate you too. And it's funny when I was talking about these simple joys, a moment with a friend, I was thinking the moments, I'm now getting more moments with you since you started being a co-host on Inside Out Money. And I appreciate that. And it's a simple joy. I mean, we even just spent 30 minutes screwing around with some technical issues prior to this because I've switched podcast recording platforms and Erica's taking the brunt of that pain since we had a good system going before. And so, but that was I was doing it with someone I enjoy talking to and we're joking around about stuff. And so, yes, I think that is a great example. And thank you for saying that. But your question about things that we take for granted and you would think of something throughout the episode. I think something that often goes in that category for me is the roof over our head. And beyond that, the things within it. So the fact that we have central air, actually you're in Oregon. Don't you not have air conditioning?
Well, the landlord was on board with getting central air a few years ago. Getting him to turn it on is another task. That's where the landlord really is putting his foot down, but it does exist inside our house. Whether it goes on or off, I have no control over. I just live here.
That's hilarious. And you live in Portland, Oregon, so that's more common that people they have heat, but they don't always have central air conditioning.
Right.
But it is hilarious about the landlord who, AKA Erica's husband, where he won't turn it on because I'm the same way. We haven't turned on our air yet. I love this period of time where it's sort of between I guess they call it fall. I was going to say between summer and winter.
I think you just invented a new season. That's so weird.
And it's such a great season, y'all. It's fall, y'all. You should enjoy it. So the roof over our heads, the fact that we have, central air, the fact that we have furniture and a comfy mattress to sleep on and soft sheets, for against our skin. Those to me are things I often take for granted. They're luxuries in some parts of the world. They're things some people don't have and can't afford even in this part of the world. I mean, I could drive a mile away and find people who don't have all of the basic luxuries, and I wouldn't even call them necessities, but luxuries that we have in our lives and that we very much take for granted. And the idea of a cat tie-dye sweatshirt is a whole nother, level above that. And so I do think there's just all these basic things in our life that most of us probably take for granted every day.
Yeah. And then it causes us to go out and be like, well, what don't I have? Instead of like, what do I have?
Yeah, which is what I love about the concept of reframing and reshifting your mindset to focus on all you do have and the, being more present and engaged and trying to be more gracious and appreciative of what we already do have.
Yeah, on that note, Maggie, one of this term that I'm sure has been around a long time, like the word fall, is glimmer, but I've only been introduced to it in this kind of mindset topic that we're talking about. But glimmers are small moments that spark joy or peace, which can help cue our nervous system to feel safe or calm. And experts say that this mindset shift can make a positive impact on our mental health. And so this ties in perfectly with what we're talking about. You don't have to have this big joy, this big dopamine hit that leaves you, when it goes away, you're almost at a low. You can have little tiny glimmers of joy throughout the day. Like you talked about, like a conversation with a friend, like that first sip of a drink, a walk in nature. These are the types of things that just little moments, if you're open to receiving how they hit you, like, wow, that was a nice little glimmer of joy and I feel good. And if you have enough of those throughout the day, you maintain this positive mental mindset that keeps you going versus like, you have like a big high of something. I guess it kind of could be like the hedonic treadmill that we've talked about in other episodes of like, you get that thing, you get that hit, you're good. And then you've got to let down and that can tank you.
Yeah. And it's hard to live that way, like emotionally and physically. Like you just said, you got to be open to it. And it doesn't have to be a new car or some big fancy vacation or some big promotion at work. Like those things are great. Sometimes they will come. But I actually think, and there's a lot of happiness research around this, the small glimmers of joy and those moments are actually more important to sustain your happiness. And they're the things you can get some of every day. And that's the stuff I'm personally trying to focus on more because I can get a dopamine hit from shopping or accumulating more things, but it's very short-lived and all of the research proves this. So if we can train our minds and remind ourselves and be more open and mindful, and again, open, which we've said a few times, to learning to get those dopamine hits from these simple glimmers of joy and appreciating what we already have and simplifying and minimizing our lives, like everything will be that much more enjoyable. And in turn, we'll spend a lot less money, which it has all of these other, downwind benefits.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I was going to say is like glimmers are free. You get them if you're open to them in ways that you have that constant hit. Like the dopamine hit is something that usually comes at a cost. You're either paying for it, it's short-lived. The glimmers are the long-term solution that don't cost you any money, that help lead, maybe add them all up and you're just living on that dopamine high all day.
Yeah. And so I think that's the point. You can get a dopamine hit from a free glimmer of joy, as we're calling it, or you can get a dopamine hit from buying something. And I know you and I, Erica, are trying to lean more into how do we get more of those hits from small glimmers of joy and less from cat tie-dye sweatshirts, which again, maybe isn't a great example because I also believe you're going to get a glimmer of joy when you wear that.
It makes me so happy. Sweatshirt. It's so dumb. I just love it. Especially because the landlord's like appalled every time I put it on.
That's funny. Well, I will tell you one of my like favorite things, and I've done this many times, I think to you especially, but to many friends, is when I see something really funny like that, where I'm like, oh my God, my friends would think this is funny, or this is, it'll be like a magnet that says something silly, but that's, relative to somebody at some point in their lives. I won't buy it, but I'll take a picture of it and I'll text it to my friend and be like, oh, I saw this and thought of you. I don't add like, I'm not going to buy it for you, but I do think there's something in just, you get a little bit of the hit just from sharing that memory with that person. You don't actually have to buy the thing. And you can do the same with yourself. Like I'll sometimes see something kind of cool in the store and I'll just take a picture of it because I'm like, oh, if I ever really like need to come back to that thing and track it down, I could. But most of the time I just like recognize like, oh, that thing's cool and funny. I don't need to own it, but I'm glad I had this moment with it.
Well, and what you did is you probably gave your friend, me, I have been on the receiving end of it, but you give that person their own little momentary glimmer because it's, hey, my friend's thinking about me. They sent me a message. They reached out saying, here's this thing I found funny and thought of you. And who doesn't love, reconnecting or connecting with someone over something shared like that? Let's pivot quickly, not quickly, we'll take our time, but let's pivot to decluttering because one thing we also used to do to each other is when you would clean out your junk drawer. If we'd
you got my drunk drawer. That's a whole nother thing. What's in your drunk drawer?
Tiny airplane bottles of booze, obviously. your junk drawer, when you would clean it out, or you and I would do this. So for those who are listening, still listening, hopefully you still are.
No, you keep going. I've got a prop to show you while you're talking.
Okay. So Maggie would clean out her desk drawer at work and send me very random things, or she'd clean out things from her kids' rooms, and I'd find like just from the elbow down of a doll arm that would come in the mail to me, or other random things like useful pens. I'm always a big fan of pens. Who doesn't need?
We would ship a mix of crap and like maybe some useful stuff mixed in just to like send each other a package.
Yes, we would send something like.
Right. I'm just shortening your.
Yeah, thank you. I needed.
I'm really good at shortening things. You know.
I know. I'm learning this about you in our 30 years of friendship.
Hey, Erica, while you're saying that, can I please get credit for the fact that I can produce this on cue while in front of my laptop?
Oh wait, what is that?
I know
from?
you're listening to us. This is the leg. This is from you. This is the leg of some sort of doll. It's about 1.5 inches long. I don't know what it is, but you once shipped me this.
Okay, I sent it to you after you sent me the doll arm, which got a lot of use at work because I used to tape it to the earphone receiver on people's desk phones. So when they would pick up their phone, they're like, what is this? And it's just a doll arm scotch taped to their phone.
I love it. I'm glad that got some extra use.
It got at least like 3 phones worth of use.
I don't remember the point of this story. Was it that that you can ship glimmers of hope to your friends with your leftover stuff? Or we were going to get into decluttering, right?
Well, I think there are 2 points. Yes, you can ship glimmers, not glimmers of hope, glimmers of crap to your friends when you clean out your junk drawer. But also that's how we declutter, except that the fact that you still have that doll leg, you knew it would come in handy.
Well, I can say I've gotten rid of most of the things you sent me, but I kept this because I'm like, I got to keep at least one sentimental item.
I love that it still bends at the knee, but it's not attached to anything.
It is not attached to anything. It still has like a ripped screw out of it. So Erica, when we were talking about this subject, I think we both had a big like minimalism decluttering angle on this, because I think if you combine the concept of trying to focus more on these glimmers of joy and these moments of getting just like we said, getting a dopamine hit from appreciating some of these everyday things in our lives and some of these more simple joys in our lives. I think if we pair that with trying to get rid of things and simplify our lives, it just has a compound benefit, because I know I'm so much happier when I have less stuff in my life. And I know I have too much stuff in my life and I don't need half of the things that are in my house. And so I would encourage people to use this realization and the energy and momentum from it to start to get rid of things, which again, as we're talking about how this can also save you money, getting rid of things can save you money because you can sell things. And Erica, I know you're doing I keep wanting to call it Movember because we used to do that when I was at work. Well, not me to be clear, but the guys.
The landlord is doing a version of that, but it's more related to Halloween.
Right. Okay. So what's this called?
So I'm going to do a no spend November, but what came up with that, I mean, this ties in with the glimmers, and actually if we walk this back for a second, the glimmers of not spending, finding joys in the things that are already there kind of goes with the decluttering. So when I try to declutter and not think about taking in more, I look at what I have enough. And a lot of the things that comes up with when you have too much is you can't find things, or you don't appreciate what you do have. So you're like, well, I have to fill this hole for needing more. So I'm going to attempt to do a version of No Spend November. I was reading some different personal finance and well-being articles on this. And one person actually kind of proposed, instead of doing a no spend November, try, if you know you might have a problem with it, or no spend month, try like every Saturday. If there's something you really want to buy, you can buy it on that day, because then you've held off, you've delayed the gratification. And so if you get to Saturday and you're like, I don't really need it, but it comes to the mindset of like, oh, I can't spend anything, and November is going to be a little difficult. Like the holidays are coming up, we got to prep our lists for Santa. It's just a little bit harder not to spend money, but I'm using I can take it to Saturday. I can hold off until Saturday. And that's where I'm putting the mindset part of this in. If I can get to Saturday and not make this impulse decision, then it really helps me be present. And is this something I really need? It gives me time to find, is this something I already have at home? So in my decluttering, I will go through of like, we talked about Marie Kondo, like of the sparking joy of, is this the stuff that really makes me happy? Do I need this? Could I buy it at a later date if I really need it? Like I'm trying not to hang on to things just in case. But just one small example of decluttering is I was starting small. I was taking off some of the things from our fridge, and a lot of it's kids' art. And for the stuff that I really care about, I frame it, I scan it, I keep it in a box for them for later. But a lot of it, kids come home with a lot of art.
And most of it's not very good, right? Let's be real. I'm just kidding.
I mean, this it's no Banksy, let's be honest. But so I took a lot of it off the fridge and kind of put it into the categories that I wanted. And the girl one came home from school, was like, "Oh, did you clean the kitchen? It looks so clean." I was thinking, it's because the fridge, you can actually see the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a good sort of direct feedback of going through the house and kind of taking some things that really are just there because I maybe received it as like a small gift. It maybe doesn't have the same meaning, and I feel guilt around getting rid of it. So I'm trying to shed that guilt around why am I feeling guilty to hang on to stuff that I don't need, that adds to the clutter, that adds to the mental clutter, to maybe make space for something that I am happier about. Like we've talked about buying things to decorate your house on trips as mementos. I've been trying to like buy more art, or like I bought this like beautiful wooden vase when we were in Costa Rica. And those are the things I want to decorate our house with.
Yeah, I love it. And I'm very much in a decluttering phase or in a like the pre-phase to decluttering, which is where you're just really frustrated and annoyed by all your stuff and you're somewhat more motivated to get rid of more stuff. And I think even having this discussion is motivating me. So I'll give one really small example I did the other day. And this to me, like I noticed, I was like, ooh, I got a dopamine hit from this activity. And I want more of these dopamine hits. And I want to be present and recognize how this makes me feel good in actually a better way than accumulating something does, other than like a tinge of regret of what I once spent on something. But I have, in addition to tie-dye and hoodies, problem, I also have a problem with bags, and not like nice purses, like maybe many women might have. I have a problem with like book bags and tote bags and things like that. So I recently bought a new, I think it was when I was in London actually, and it's great. One of my friends works for Lululemon in London. I got a very nice discount on it. Bought it last summer in London. It's a great memory too, but I bought a nice Lululemon backpack. It essentially replaced this other laptop backpack that I had. And I was looking at it and I was like, I'm never going to use this other one. I really like this one. It's like black and sleek and just very clean and minimalist. And so I was like, I'm going to sell this. It's in very good condition. I like looked it up and I spent like $80 something on it. I posted it on our neighborhood like parent exchange thing that's mostly for selling stuff. And I posted it for $25. It sold within like 4 minutes.
Wow.
And at one point I'm like, oh, should I post it for 30, 35? I'm like, I just want this thing to go somewhere. And I wanted to have a nice home and not be in my home. And so I posted it for what I thought was a decent deal for somebody else. Also $25 back in my pocket. And I felt really good from it. And I remembered like every time I kind of get on a kick of selling stuff, like I can sell stuff pretty quickly. And doesn't all sell. They're not all that quick. I posted just as many things that don't go that quickly. And then I'll just decide to donate it or I'll put it on the Buy Nothing group in our neighborhood. But I'm very motivated right now to get rid of stuff, to the extent where in early retirement, I have all these different projects and things I want to do, and a mix of like hobbies and kind of like stuff around the podcast and other things, projects, ideas, etc. The other day I was telling Greg, I was like, I am not allowing myself to start any of those new projects until I make some meaningful decluttering minimalism progress across our house, because that is an important goal for me. And I know it will make me happier. And I know it will make my day-to-day. I spend a lot of time in my house now since early retiring, like a lot more time at home. I am happier in this house when there is less stuff around. And like you said, when your daughter came into the kitchen and was like, did you clean the kitchen? Like, nope, I just threw away all your artwork.
Well,
Just
I didn't
kidding.
tell her that. She has a tendency to
I know,
dive
just
into the
kidding.
recycling bin. But yeah, that's a great point. And I work from home now exclusively, except for when I travel. And so I have a tendency to see everything. And my office becomes the dumping ground for things that don't need to be in the living room. The landlord kind of just has a tendency like, here's this, where this goes, this mail. And it really stresses me out. And I'm looking around at what I have on my desk. I'm like, what is all this crap? And
Yeah.
it's investments or things that I've accumulated that is so unnecessary. And so this is probably where I'm going to start, because, it's where I spend a majority of my day.
Can I give you some suggestions to help you in your office and beyond, Erica?
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast the other day. Heck, if I could remember which one, but I'm going to figure it out and put it in the show notes. But it was like a Simple Living podcast. And she went through a bunch of questions to ask yourself while you're decluttering. And I wrote them down and printed them out. And I rarely will like print something, but I was like, I'm going to walk around and while I'm decluttering, like ask myself these questions. And I had heard some of them before, but not all of them kind of all at once. And I loved the list. And I think I threw a few of my own on here too. Like I threw in a Marie Kondo. Does this spark joy?
I have one.
Do you have a list of questions too?
Yeah.
We should compare our list of questions. Okay, I'm going to read mine and then you tell me what overlap you have.
Okay.
Okay. Is this my favorite? Like when you see the cat tie-dye sweatshirt, you'll be like, of course it is. And then you'll move on. Do I love it? Which are kind of like feel repetitive, but whatever. If I lost it, would I replace it? That's one of my favorites.
That's a good one.
Again, repetitive. Would I buy it again? Also a little repetitive, but same thing. How much would it cost me if I had to replace it? That's what I was thinking about that book bag. I was like, man, if I regret getting rid of this book bag, which I won't and I don't, I'll buy another one for $70. I'll be okay. You know, like the world's not going to end. Speaking of that, next question. What's the worst thing that could happen if I let it go? That's a good question.
That's a really good one.
Is this thing in solid working order? Is this item plastic? And that's related to like kitchen stuff and like how just in general, like plastic crap is like less good to keep around. So she's like, if you have like a plastic version and a metal version, like keep the metal one or keep the wood one.
But just from a, environmental perspective too, let's just get rid of the plastic crap in our life.
Yeah. Well, it's like if you already own the plastic though,
True.
environmentally, you're better off continuing to use it versus throwing it in a landfill. But I get your point. Another one that I really liked, and this is the last one. Would this item come with me if I were moving/downsizing? I have a lot of like tiny house dreams. I don't know if I share them out loud all the time, but Greg's very familiar with them. And I often think like, would this thing make it into the move into a tiny house? And like, no, 99% of what I own would not make it because it couldn't fit.
I like that. And so a lot of those were similar.
So what questions were on your list that weren't on that list?
Okay. So the ones that weren't on my list and the ones, because I won't read through all of them because yours had some really good ones. Here's one that I really like. Did I bring this item into my life? Another one is, if I were free from guilt, would I still keep it? Which I just talked about how I feel guilty for getting rid of things that people gave me.
I love it.
Will I have more space to do the things I want? This one makes me laugh. Do I need to save it for tax or legal reasons?
I think that's about paperwork mostly.
It's probably about paperwork, but I mean, I might use it when I'm going through my closet. Like, legally, will I be required to keep this at any point? What is the retention period, document retention period on this tie-dye cat sweatshirt?
If you ever got audited, it would help if you wore that in front of the IRS agent.
I think
so that could help you for tax or legal. If you ever had to go to court, you definitely want to wear that to court.
that is certainly what I'm wearing to jury duty next time I'm called.
That's a great question. Any others?
I mean, there are the basics, like, have I used it in the past year? So we know the ones like, do I love it? Have I used it in the past year? But then there are ones that really like, you're like, no, but I might keep it just in case. There's always the just in case.
You know, the other angle I love on it, I think it's Swedish death cleaning is where it comes from. But like I kind of added some reminders to myself after these questions. One of them is, do I want my kids or others in my family to have to take on the burden of this item? So I often think about sentimental stuff and I'm like, yeah, I want to leave my kids some sentimental things, but I don't want to leave them hundreds of sentimental things. And even the things that I've kept of like my dad's, I need a handful or two, but I probably could produce like I got all his old tools. Let's not count that because they're functional. But like sentimental stuff, I could produce like hundreds of things and I need like a few, and so I think some of it is like, you can still have sentimental things. You just don't need all the sentimental things, or it kind of defeats the purpose because you're not actually able to kind of give them the space and attention that they even deserve.
Well, if you take it to a morbid level, if we were to die today and someone's going through our stuff, they're like, God, Maggie has so much tie-dye. Erica has so much Braves shirts, things like this.
Mm-hmm.
That you're like, am I going to be embarrassed if people are going through my stuff? Like, do I need all this? Which is not that's its own version of comparing and worrying about things that really don't matter. But, it is something that I know that like, as our parents get older, they think about like my dad is like, I'm starting to kind of declutter now because I don't need that much. And I don't want you guys to have to clean up after me, which is, again, morbid. And I don't want to think about that. But I appreciate it because there are so many times where people who come in to clean up a loved one's belongings and it ultimately just goes in the trash. And it's kind of heartbreaking. Like someone's life just goes immediately into the landfill.
Yeah. And they don't know. I mean, the other angle I've heard on it, because I agree, it's kind of morbid and a little depressing, but it's a helpful angle. And like, it's motivating to me to think like, I don't want my kids to have to go through all this crap. Like I went through all my dad's stuff after he passed away and had to get rid of a lot of stuff. And the problem is you don't know what was most important to them. So if he had done his own decluttering, and I'm just making up numbers, and gotten from 1,000 to 100 items, then I would have known those 100 items were really important to him. But instead I had to make judgments. And I was like, I again, just kind of had to make my own judgment call on like what was useful or interesting or whatever. But I love the idea of when you're doing your own, quote, as they call it, death cleaning, you get to make those decisions yourself instead of burdening your family member with someone, with A, having to do it, and B, just not really knowing what was actually that important to you.
So I have an idea. We're calling this, this is Swedish death cleaning. What if we refer to this as our own midlife life cleaning? We're cleaning up and decluttering so we can live our lives more freely. You can put a different spin. We're talking about mindset shifts here. We can put a spin on this. We're cleaning to have like a freer life.
For the second, instead of like a midlife crisis, we're going through like midlife cleaning to free up the second half. I love it.
Yeah, we're on the back nine,
I love it. I love it.
So here's an example of something that's kind of related somewhat to decluttering, but to the idea of not spending. So I recently went on a work trip and it was an event where we kind of needed to look a little nicer. And since I work from home, I've kind of shed all of my nicer work clothes. And I'm not a person who wears blazers, and I work for a German company. We're in Germany. So I was like, I'm going to buy a pretty sweet houndstooth Adidas jacket. Bought it specifically for this event, which I've tried to talk myself out of. Don't buy things just for one event. Buy it when you know this is going to be something that fits in your life. But I broke my own rule. And then what did I do? As soon as we walked into the event, I checked the jacket and didn't pick it up until I got back, until we were leaving. So I didn't even wear it.
Yeah. Hey, I just Googled this Adidas houndstooth jacket, by the way. I think it does look pretty sweet. Not that I'm helping here, but I got a suggestion.
Tell me.
Because I agree with you. Well, I agree with you. I do things like that all the time, especially before I'm going on a trip. I'm always like, oh, if only I had this pair of pants. I just did it on a trip, actually. Like, this is a gap in my wardrobe I don't have. I convinced myself that my future self needs something. And I always try to remind myself, like, nobody cares. Not that nobody cares, but you know what I mean? Like, those people are not going to, in any meaningful way, judge you differently based on which jacket. Yeah, maybe somebody who's particularly stylish will remember that you came in with a cool jacket and compliment you on it, but it's not going to fundamentally change your relationship with them, right? And that's one thing I try to remind myself, but it's much easier said than done. Number 2, can you still return that jacket?
No, someone spilled beer down the back of the jacket, also the back of my head. That's a side note.
Sounds like a fun event, though.
It was a fun event. But what I'll say is the jacket had nothing to do with what an amazing night that event was. I connected with colleagues. It was this big celebration of the longevity of this company that I'm with now. There was so much pride in it, meeting and connecting with people. The jacket had absolutely nothing to do with the time that I had while I was there.
Yes, I think that realization is important and was similar to the point I was trying to make on, like, that's not the meeting. And if it was, that's not the kind of place you want to be. Like, I know you, right? And so, but I think both can be true. Look, like, there's value in feeling good and looking good. And so if you really do have a gap in your wardrobe and you're missing a kind of slightly dressier jacket, like, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it. But the reason I say that return comment is there was something I recently bought, and I can't even think of what it was now. And I bought it, but I like a week in was like, I'm not really enjoying this. Like, I don't like the way it fits me. It was a pair of shoes. And I had worn them like outside once, but you could barely tell. And this store has a particularly good return policy, even for wearing them. And I was like, don't be afraid to return something. Like, I purposely try to shop at stores that have good return policies, that sell quality things, and they don't question if you return it. And I mean, I'm not saying once like beer spilled down the back of it, but if you had taken on that trip and you were like, I just never even wore it, and I realized I'll never wear this, you could go back and return it 2 weeks later. Like, I hang on to the tags for a little while. I keep my receipts. And don't be afraid to return something, because if you immediately regret it and you're only, the first week or two in, like think about how you're going to feel, years later when you still haven't worn it.
In addition to that, because I have the same thing of like, I need to know that I can return this and the company has a good return policy. In the same vein, if I'm buying something and it says final sale, no returns, I have to really question, am I okay with owning this forever?
Yeah. And that's usually something that's on like heavy sale at that point too. And then I'm always questioning, like, am I only buying this because it's on sale? Do I actually want it? Like, what's my mindset around it? But I will say, Erica, this conversation is like super motivating me to actually go and get rid of more stuff. Because again, it's been on my mind and kind of in my short-term goals, but I will admit I have not done as much actual action against it. And I've been much better over the years about buying less stuff, but I still have decades worth of things amassed that I need to get rid of, that I don't use, that I don't value. And when we go through all those decluttering questions, I'm just like, yeah, I can get rid of a lot of stuff and I need to.
I think what we can do is, we've talked about accountability partners for spending and saving. Let's be each other's decluttering, life cleaning partners.
Mm-hmm.
We can send each other
midlife cleaning partners.
Midlife cleaning partners. I love this. We can send each other photos of what we've done. I know I'm going to start small because I know Marie Kondo says, just like take everything out of your closet. Like, I'll be honest, I don't have the time to do everything at once. That's a big undertaking. And my closet is small, but it's still a lot to work through because you're working through the emotional baggage of these clothes that you have and things that you've accumulated. So it's more than just like, yes, no, there's like a whole conversation that's going on there. So I'm going to start small.
You got to ask yourself those 15 questions.
Exactly. We should put all those. We'll accumulate those questions into one.
Yeah, I'll put them in the show notes. I wrote them down.
Yeah, and we can be each other's accountability partners there. Other people can find accountability partners. It's kind of a fun. I mean, if there's something that I'm questioning whether I want to keep, I'll send it to you and you could be like, hard no.
Yes, actually, that's a good idea. It was like, let's text us all the stupid crap let's text each other all the stupid crap. It's not all stupid crap, but some of it is.
A lot of it
is. Like, am I allowed to get rid of this? Am I allowed to get rid of this little doll leg that you sent me?
Yes, please. I thought that was long gone.
It's small. Well, it just sits in the little drawer in my desk. But it reminds me of you.
Well, I like that. How about you put a picture? Do you still have that picture of us hugging that I gifted you for Christmas years ago? You kept the doll leg, but not the picture?
Well, I'm sure the picture is somewhere. Was it like a frame picture or just a picture?
Yeah, it was in a frame.
Oh, it's somewhere then. It's probably like down on my bookshelves where I keep frames.
Well, clearly
I just don't have like frame stuff.
Okay.
I don't keep frames like sitting. I don't know. I don't have anywhere to put like frames in here. Anyways, two other things that I think it's like really out of focus. Is that Hulk Hogan?
No, it's The Rock. These are the things that I must have.
That looks like the body of your video is like super grainy, so I can't see it. That looks like the body of the leg that I have. Okay. So if someone heard that like out of context, you'd be like, what are these ladies talking about? Two other tips, in addition to like find an accountability partner, which Erica and I have found in ourselves, though I'm not sure we're like the most helpful because we're going to be like, oh yeah, keep that doll leg. You never know when you're going to need that.
It probably goes to the body of that other doll you have floating around somewhere.
Yeah. We're going to be better on the side of recognizing glimmers of joy than we are of getting rid of stuff, but we're going to try for both angles on this. Two other ideas for encouragement that I think will help in addition to accountability partners. One is while you're trying to get rid of stuff and get more in this mindset, and again, the holiday season is a great time to do this, digest more inspiring podcasts, YouTube videos, books, TV shows. There's a lot of great ones on like minimalism and getting rid of stuff. The minimalism documentary on Netflix is great. There's a ton of great podcasts. The minimalists have one. There's the one that I was reading the decluttering questions from. I'll put in the show notes. There's amazing YouTube videos. I heard someone once refer to it as decluttering porn. You can watch there's tons of YouTube videos of other people decluttering their houses and like going through the process. I think it's super helpful and kind of motivating. And then the other recommendation is less social media and or the right social media. So back to the very beginning of this episode, I talked about the Begin at Home account. I'll put a link in the show notes to her account, but I love her account. It encourages me to focus on the simple joys in life and glimmers of joy, as we've talked about, and to not be so focused on the type of stuff I have or, an updated home or whatever it might be. And she's always she'll post where she's got a goal to get rid of a bunch of stuff and she's trying to, sell $100 worth of stuff this month. And I see that and I'm like, oh, That's motivating. Like, I'm going to go post this book bag I've been dragging my heels on. And I'm going to look around and see what other stuff can I get rid of and what other stuff would someone else find more use for? Could I sell and make a little bit of money back on? And so I think using social media for good on that one and following minimalism and decluttering accounts can also be very encouraging while you're trying to focus on this.
That's a really great point. And I also have one small thing that has worked for me, especially as we're starting to get into the holiday season, high spending. I've been really specific about making lists that I'm shopping for, even if it's grocery shopping, Target shopping, going shopping for something, and I keep to that list. So I'm less incentivized to just look around at all the things that kind of speak to me or look at the deals or these things, like we've talked about the things at the end caps at Target, so when you have that list and these are the things on your list and that you've made the mental note to put these things on there, are you sticking to that?
I mean, yeah, and that's on the angle of accumulating less new stuff into your life, which, yeah, I agree. Lists are incredibly helpful. And, we used to do a lot of Friends on Fire episodes on this. Like, I don't even walk into Target that often. I just went to Target a couple days ago. I hadn't been in months. I'd been saving up things I really needed. And if there's like one thing I really need, I'll do 2-day shipping, which is free because I'm like, I'm not walking in that store. It's dangerous. I buy crap I don't need. And I just try to like kind of keep myself out of those situations.
Yeah. I really like your idea of, we've talked about how dangerous social media can be. It brings to the compare and despair. So if you find the things like, the minimalism documentaries, keep yourself off social media. Maybe in addition to a version of No Spend November, do like a no social media lead up to like the holiday season, because then it makes you see all these things that you do and don't need. The social media we see tells us what we don't have. And then the decluttering and the minimalism accounts remind us of what we already have, which keeps in line with what we're talking about right now. So it's finding those like-minded people to really help you achieve your goals and just work towards it, get started.
Yeah, I totally agree, Erica. I think this goes right back around to one of our points at the very beginning and is a great way to wrap it up and bring it home, which is just reframing all of this to how much we do have and finding joy in these simple things around us and appreciating what we have and practicing some gratitude more often. It will make us want less and it will reframe and reshift our minds to be able to get those dopamine hits from other things, not from accumulating things. So our challenge to ourselves over the next few months and really for the rest of our lives is to try to get more dopamine hits from these simple glimmers of joy and from decluttering and minimizing our lives, because it's something, to your point, in our midlife cleaning phase, Erica, it's something that's important to us and that we want to focus on. And so I hope this discussion has been helpful and encouraging to you all in some way. Let us know your feedback. Let us know what's working for you. Let us know if you have other decluttering questions that we didn't list that are really helpful to you. And I just encourage you all to, take a moment now to think about some little glimmer of joy in your life and appreciate what you have.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys for listening. I know your time is valuable and we really appreciate you spending some of it with Erica and I today. If you've enjoyed this episode, we really appreciate it if you want to give us a written review on Apple Podcast, and you can leave us a rating on Spotify also. Hey, that written review, when I see a positive written review for our podcast, it gives me like a lovely glimmer of joy.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And I think sharing this episode with your friends or family members to encourage these ongoing discussions, find ways that you can find glimmers with each other through minimalism, through not spending money.
Yeah, like send this episode to a friend that you want to kind of have be your accountability partner on this, because I'm super excited to have Erica and I do this for each other, but find someone who can, be your Erica or be your Maggie, and send this to your friend to get them started, and then say like, listen to this and then let's talk.
Yeah. And if you have thoughts or questions, especially around this topic, we'd love to hear from you, and you can leave a voicemail or text us at 404-981-3370 or hit us up on Instagram. I think I'm going to go find a little glimmer out in nature and take Daryl for a walk.
Oh, nice. Daryl's her dog, by the way.
He's the only one who shall be named on this podcast.
If Daryl had made a bunch of artwork, would you have thrown it away?
Daryl is artwork. I'm gonna put the kitty cat sweatshirt, the tie-dye kitty cat sweatshirt on Daryl and send you a photo.
Oh, I thought you were gonna put it on yourself and then go for a walk.
No, I'm already clothed. I'll put it on
well,
later.
I would like
A
I would like
photo.
a picture of you in this
Yeah.
sweatshirt that we're talking about, please. As usual, always a pleasure, Erica. Have an awesome day.
Thanks, Maggie. I miss you.
Miss you too. Bye.
Bye.
Your voice sounds so tiny when you said bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
We're going round and round.